Okay, so I'm going to be continuing on with this cutscene today. Just need to remind myself of where I'm at with it. So, you've got the dinosaur roaring at her, takes a bite, she then throws a spear, runs at him, jumps up on the back. Okay, this is as far as we've got. So, what I need to do first of all is put a little bit of motion into the dinosaur here, because he kind of just dies. I don't want to change the position too much, because obviously I want to get her up on the back around here, and I quite like this framing, so what I'm going to do is just add a bit of ambient movement to him. I think he's still going to be slightly off balance, so what I might just do is a couple of steps just to kind of correct his positioning. Yeah, okay. Alright, so with stuff like this, it can actually be quite tricky just to keep a character alive, you know. But generally, if you sort of give everything a slight nudge and a slight wiggle, that usually does the job. So he's just done a step here, so I want to make sure I get a nice down position at this point already. I'm just going to work on the core first of all and then work outwards. I think this foot here is going to have to move. Yeah, which makes sense because this foot has just come down, so therefore this foot is then freed up. I don't like this clipping as well, so I'm going to fix this so it's a bit nicer position. Put that about there. Because the camera is sort of coming in, I don't need to actually add that much to him. I just need to add enough so he's not completely dead. So it could just be something like that. The weight of her coming down as well might actually make him come down after this as well. It does feel like I'm missing a frame between here and here though. You see that massive change of shape between here and here. Yeah, that needs addressing, so let's break it down. Okay, so I want this foot to kind of stomp down, so I'm going to favour this side. Okay, now as this foot comes across, he's kind of off balance, but at this point it's going to start to raise up a little bit. I'm not too worried about the leg clip in there because it's on the other side of the camera, but try and get it in shot a little bit just so it's clear what's going on. And I'll do the toes and stuff later, but that'll be about there. And it stomps down. There you go, that's better. Cool, now what I'm going to do is just feed that slight ambient movement into the rest of him. So I'm not going to use this control, because this control and this control are basically the same. But from about here, I'm just going to select these as a block for now. And probably the neck as well. And the head, why not? Okay, and what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of texture. Okay, so we've got a down position there. So I see I'm really close to the floor here, and I still want him to be roaring a little bit, so I'm just going to give that a slight nudge here as well. Maybe have him keep looking back at her. Not too keen on this head position though, it looks broken. And he can sort of look out the corner of his eye, so I'm just going to adjust that, just so it's like this. And I'll reduce the roar as well. Okay, yeah, because it still looks like he's looking at her at that point. Cool, there's also quite a lot of downward momentum here, so actually what I want to do is have his head and his neck a tiny bit floppy, and do a little bit more like this, so it kind of gets dragged down. Like this, and then as she jumps up, yeah, that kind of works. Not too keen about this here as well, so what I might do is a similar kind of thing here during this part. He gets hit and then roars. I might just delay that rotation there, so that's going to be about there. Okay, and then I'll start closing the drawer at this point. Alright, cool. So eventually what I'm going to have to do is do some parent constraints to make sure that once she's on his back here, she kind of stays on there. Although I don't think she's actually going to be on this part for very long. I basically want her to grab the spear, jump up into the air and stab him straight in the head for the kill. Okay, so what I might just do is just continue on, and I'll come back to all this stuff later on. Cool. Alright, so the next challenge is to try and get the spear out and to get her jumping into her next part. So I'm just going to scrub through and see if I can kind of visualize how that would work. Okay, can't quite visualize this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to straight ahead it and then see what I get. So what I want her to do, I think, is to basically twist this way. I want her momentum to keep going in this direction. Most of the push off is going to be on this back foot, I think. And she's basically going to rip the spear out and go into the anticipation pose, is what I'm thinking. So this is going to come up this way. Okay, I'll deal with the spear in a minute, but I just want to try and get this pose going. Try and get her to twist. And see, I'm sort of twisting beyond what I can there, so I'm going to have to bring it in a little bit more from the cog here. Maintain her looking at it. This arm here is going to continue down this way for balance. Alright, so I'm guessing something like that. Okay, at this point I'm just going to disable the parent on the spear here. And just roughly get it back into her hands. So yeah, that doesn't quite work. So yeah, okay, I think I got it. She's too forward too much. I basically need her on the dinosaur a little bit longer. And I need to make a bigger deal out of this beat where she kind of rips it out. So at this point, it's going to be higher. And probably more up at an angle. I don't have a lot of room in the camera here, so I need to probably push that as far as I can that way. Go from here to here. That would be the pulling out of the spear. And obviously it looks bad. These are just the keys at the moment. Okay, but what I'm going to do is just continue on, and then I'll start breaking it down further later on. Okay, this is going to go into the anticipation of the final stab to the head. So what I'm going to do is start pulling the camera back a little bit to give a tiny bit more room here. Okay, then I basically want her to leap towards him. Okay, this pose looks bad because you can't kind of see the other arm. There you go. As soon as you put that arm there, it all starts to make a bit more sense. So what she's going to do, I'm actually thinking she pushes off this leg because it's a little bit more stable than the other one. So she would, what I'm going to do is just the stretch pose, and then we'll sort of backfill the other poses. Let's just build the core, because I'm having a bit of a hard time visualizing how this is going to work. So what I'm going to do is very rough, just to get an idea. I'm not too keen on that actually. I might try kicking off this leg. Doesn't look very good in camera, so let's try that leg up instead. So that just makes for a nicer, clearer pose. Alright, so it'd be something like that. Okay. Alright, what I'm going to do here is just go straight to the extreme of where I want this to end up. Okay. So yeah, let's do that. I'm going to put this here. I'm going to basically drop the dinosaur down. He's going to get stabbed in the head, therefore it's going to kind of hit the ground. I kind of don't want him to die straight away. I want him to be kind of twitching around and stuff. And sort of... yeah, okay. I'll deal with that later. Alright. So yeah, let's get this stab going. So she's basically going to end up standing on his head and his neck. So this is the thing, because I've done so much posing with this, see how kind of twisted she is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to zero all this out. Just so I can be sure that the rig hasn't kind of lost its integrity around the spine area, because it's very easy to do that. Once you start posing, you start pulling all these things about, and all of a sudden you've got a character that just doesn't have a spine anymore. So sometimes it's better just to cut your losses if it's too messy and you just need to repose, then do it. It's not worth the hassle later on trying to fix it. Cool. Okay, so she's going to basically get all her body weight into it. So she's going to twist over to this side, like so. This arm is going to come up. Okay, I'm just going to stab straight down. Probably into his eye or something. Okay. So super rough, but I just want to get an idea of where it's going. So jumps up onto the back. She then tears out the spear, jumps, lands on him, in which case the camera I really want to swing the camera around, because what I want him to do is basically be twitching and still sort of moving about even after he's been stabbed. So I kind of want to bring the camera around this way. Just to kind of show all that body stuff off. Something like that. I see a massive change here, so all this needs is going to need filling in as she stabs him, and then probably jumps off. Okay, I can kind of see how that's going to work. Cool, alright. What I'll do now is start breaking this down and filling in these gaps just to make sure. So we've got her jumping onto the back here. So what I'm going to do is make this a bit more of a down position. I want her to really sort of land on his back and push some weight into him to make him then come down as well. So we'll just add this as a frame. This is probably going to be easier to do once I have a few more frames during the timing pass, but a little low position there, and then he's going to kind of recover pretty easy because he's a lot bigger, but there'll still be a tiny downward force there applied to him. Alright, she's going to grab the spear here. So from here to here I need to work out how to kind of rip that spear out. So I'm going to break it down between here and here. Let's ignore the camera for now. Okay, because we're ripping the spear out, we basically need to favour this side. If we go in the middle, it's going to be too quick. What you want is that kind of that slow build up and then that quick release. Okay, so therefore you favour your breakdown on this side to kind of achieve that. So it'll be something like 38. And obviously we don't want to let Maya decide all this stuff as well. So what I'll do is actually take another one around about here. So we have a quick section where she pulls out here, but then an ease out at the end of it. Right, move everything back across to ones. Okay, and just reshape this. So, I'll turn the blend parent on at this point. Alright, so we basically want to get her body twisting before the actual spear comes out as well. Yeah, in a similar way you do a punch and lead with the body. I'm going to lead with the body here, but then delay the arm actually coming through. I really need to make some of these controllers bigger. Just make sure I've got the angle of that spear coming out correct. I'm going to put this arm up to kind of balance her out a bit. And create a bit of symmetry in the pose as well. Okay, so it was starting to build that motion in there. It's not quite right. I need to twist her even more. Cool. Alright. And then we go into the jump. So again, as usual, we're going to need to anticipate the jump. We don't just want her to go from here straight into the stretch pose. But what I'm thinking is if I use this pose here as my anticipation, probably want to get this hand down to help. Head is super busted there, so I'm going to have her start looking at the dinosaur. Start getting this arm back into a nicer position. And drop her weight back and as down as she'll go. Yeah, I need to push that further. So, I'm going to rotate her a little bit more into it. Something like that. Might need to push it a bit further, but we go from a spear coming out. We've got a bit of an ease in, out of that into a anticipation for the jump. We've got the stretch pose already, so we just need to build the rest of these poses here. Okay, I'm just going to go for a drink of water. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. Right. Cool. What I do now is sort the cameras out. So, because I've added a couple more frames here, I'm just going to space that out a bit. Okay. Now for the tricky bit is to get from here to here. So what I'm going to do is break this down. I think this is probably going to be one of the trickier parts of the animation. it's not a particularly long jump. I need her feet to kind of land before the actual stab itself. You can kind of see that the trajectory of her jumping as well is also really off at the moment. So this is going to be a tricky bit. Alright. So what I'll do first is I'll define the apex of it. Probably about there. I'm going to need a part where her feet come down. It's almost like the stretch pose. But at this point she wouldn't have actually stabbed. So that's probably about there. So I'll take those two and then rework them an awful lot. Cool. Alright, so apex. Let's get her a little bit higher. I think this jump might end up actually being quite high as opposed to long. So it might be a case of I actually change this to be a bit more upright and a bit more like she's launching upwards. And then kind of using all that momentum coming down to stab. And a twister right into that. That spear coming downwards. You could also cheat it a little bit as well and actually have the dinosaur move forward because it's in camera. I don't think you actually notice. That'll just give me a little bit more room just to create a nicer arc in midair. So it'd be something like that. Cool, alright. Because she's pushing off this foot here, I'm going to keep this foot back and then lead with this one here. Try and get a nicer pose in midair, something a bit kind of dynamic. You can see I'm still working super rough. I'll go back and fix all these poses up later. But I don't want to spend time on poses that might not work. I might have to, you know, completely rework this whole idea. I just want to get it to a state where I can actually kind of visualize, is it going to work or not? Then I'll commit and I'll go back and make it look nice. Okay. Cool. Right, so for this pose here, feet are going to land first. So I'll just, oh, feet aren't even landing on them. Let's fix these. So what I might have to do as well is change the position of the spear in the hand, because obviously this is super broken. It doesn't make any sense at the moment, but that's a future problem. Okay, I'm just going to delete that, resample it. Cool, and then have this foot stretch down first. That's going to be trying to find its landing position here. This foot here is going to lag behind a bit. Okay, the this is quite an important pose, I need to get this right, so I'll start twisting her body into it, but delaying this arm actually coming through. So I'm going to use all the momentum of her coming downwards and twisting into it, but delay this arm as long as I can. Probably want to get a reversal on the spine as well. At the moment she's got this kind of C shape coming through. Let's reverse it here and drive that way. Something like that. Okay, it's starting to work. Super rough, but I can kind of see where it's going, which is good. Alright, let's have a look at the cameras. Let's see how this is looking. Alright, so takes the spear out, leaps up. See, she's not in frame here because we've put a new apex in, so I'm just going to push that over there. Alright, it's pretty clear that I need to start bringing the camera around sooner, and I kind of, in the last video, I kind of felt that the staging this was slightly wrong, and that it would all work better if it was all filmed for this last part more over this direction. So, which is fine. Although I quite like this, being on top of the dinosaur. I might just quickly try and see what it feels like to do this kind of move, but it's such an extreme kind of camera move, I'm a bit reluctant to do it. Especially during the jump here, it's a bit too much. So what I might try and do is just start bringing it down and around this way. A little bit sooner. I'm going to have to go quite wide here, so could do something like that. Yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, I'll go with that for now. I might end up completely changing the cameras later, but I think that's looking okay. Cool. Right, what I'm thinking is that I actually want her to not kill him straight away. I actually think I want to continue this momentum down. So almost like she continues off in this direction but then rotates around this spear point and gets to the floor, and then I think the spear would still be in the eye, but I kind of wanted to hop down, stab, hop off and turn, and then sort of almost yank the spear into his brain a bit more, which finally kills him. And then what I want is this, all this sort of back stuff here to be going mad as well, just sort of like kicking and sliding and moving around a lot. I want this to feel like super dynamic as he's dying. I just don't want to do the stab and he slumps to the ground. I think I can kind of do something a bit more interesting and harder. Why not? You know. Alright, so that's going to be our low position for the stab. I'm just going to really drive that into his eye. Then just basically going to continue that momentum around this way. I see, like, just doing this super rough. It needs tons of constraints and stuff to get this to work in later on, but that's tomorrow's problem. Okay, so something like that. Stab continues around. Just going to kind of keep going in this direction here. Spear is just going to stay in that eye socket as she rotates around. And starts making her way to the floor. I do love animating like this, just no plan, just sort of go for it. It's fun. So much of the work I do is like so structured and planned out. It's nice just to sit here and animate and just see where it goes. Cool, okay. Stab. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. There's a lot of momentum coming down and forward, so why not use it and do something a bit more interesting. Stab, use that momentum. She's then going to land on the floor. I'm thinking she like almost grabs the spear with two hands and kind of yanks the spear. Not out, but like, you know, inwards. So his head's going to be like almost like breaking the neck. So I think, yeah, that would be cool. let's get her on the floor and we'll see what we can do. Alright, so this foot is probably going to land around about here. This one's going to land around about here. Hips are going to complete their rotation, so she'll be very hunched over. Don't know if that's a problem or not. Oh, I really like that framing though. Okay, I'll think about that. But at the same time, I want to see him twitch around, so I do need to be on this side. That's fine. That is an ugly looking pose. Right, let's get her. I guess because she's landing, there's a lot of weight coming down, so I guess it's an excuse to kind of have her here. I don't like this, what this arm is doing. Can't put it up there into the negative space, I can't put it down there because of the camera. It's just kind of there. Okay. I might change the camera angle a little bit. Let's see what I can do with the cameras here. Do something a bit more like that at this point, and then as she hops off, come back over to the left slightly. I don't like coming left and right, tracking left and right. It's a bit of a messy way of doing that. The thing is, that is a lot nicer framing. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is I can't really deviate too much from this staging here, because again I want to see that body, I want to see the tail going, I want to, I want there to be loads of dynamic movement from the dinosaur as it's kind of dying, so I don't really want to lose that. So what I'm going to do is kind of put this back to where I had it, and then maybe just change her pose, just so it reads a bit better in camera, because that's any problem. It's like she comes off and this just looks super weak. There's no, the silhouette is not where it needs to be. So It might be a case that I don't actually turn it that much. Maybe she's a bit more like that. Maybe if this foot here, we open up the stance a bit by putting this foot here, and then have her weight on the front foot like that. Twist it that way a little bit more. Right, so that's instantly a nicer pose in the camera. I mean, it's not perfect, but I'm going to try something a little bit different with it. Yeah, that kind of works. Still not crazy about it, but I'll have a think and see what I can do about this pose here. Okay, I'm back. So to finish up, I'm just going to do some work on the dinosaur, and then next time I'll do the final blow. Okay, so got a bit of a problem here. He's kind of dropping down before she's even made contact, so I need to actually get this contact point correct. So he's still going to be kind of upwards, and this foot here is kind of what starts to drive him down. His head is probably still going to be at kind of that angle. Okay, I don't think you can notice that he's moving forward for no reason. I guess the reason could be, oh, it doesn't make sense because she's so small, but if she's kind of pushing into his back here, what I could do is a tiny spine reversal on him to show that. So it's almost like he's kind of been kicked. That would probably make his feet slide out a little bit and give it a little bit more reason. Alright, so what I'll do is I'll start with the core first of all. I'll probably select her feet as well, just to kind of keep it all in line for now. I'm just going to put a bit of, I'm going to grab her hips as well. Put a bit of ambient movement here, because obviously I don't want him just to completely die. Make this a bit more of a down position here. Comes up. Give that a bit of a nudge. Because at this point he'll kind of raise up a little bit. Okay, and then as he gets kicked downwards, kind of want to do something like this where I reverse his spine a little bit. counter animate the controllers back. Just get a tiny bit of a change of shape in his spine. So push that one down and then counter rotate these two back to kind of straighten out his spine a little bit. It's subtle, but I think you can kind of notice it's happening. And it's basically just coming from the fact that she's jumping. And just having to put a lot of force into, especially this back foot here, which is kind of driving his spine downwards. This is the kind of stuff I'd probably want to do with IK spine, but I am not switching now. But you can translate these. Just get a little bit of a spine reversal, so we're going from this C shape to that. It's very subtle, but you know, slightly less C shape. You can kind of see it between these frames here on the camera. Get a really, you know, quite harsh line go through there, but then it relaxes as she kicks off. Okay, and then it wouldn't justify it fully, but that would probably give, because it's already weakened, an opportunity to kind of put him off balance a little bit, and then possibly get this foot even sliding kind of back on itself, so that would end up wouldn't move that fast, that's for sure. Kind of back here out of the way. Alright. I'm super tempted just to switch over to IK spine just for this bit, because the problem I got here is if this had translation that'd be alright, but it doesn't, and that's kind of as far back as I can push his spine. What I do need is like a controller that can just move this back part independently. Okay, I'm going to give it a go. Let's see what I get. If it causes too much issues, then I'll just work through the problem. I need to find it. Where is it? That's the tail. I'm not actually sure where it is on this rig. Here we go. Okay, so here's the blend. It's always a bit dodgy doing a switching over the spine halfway through the animation. I guess the most logical place to do it would actually be between here and here, because it's going to be kind of an extreme change of shape. Let's give it a go. So switch over. Obviously it's going to completely break the animation. But you see we get all these nice, you should get, yeah, this kind of stuff, which you can't do with an FK spine. That's the advantage. So you know, there's advantages and disadvantages of FK and IK spines. It really depends on what you're doing. Like for all this stuff I've done so far, FK's been quite nice. I could have used IK, thinking about it, but it's all good. Cool. So basically what I need to do here is I need to make sure that these poses here kind of match as best as possible. just fix up the head as well so that lands in the correct place. Okay, actually I need to work my way from this hierarchy here. So this is going to be curled this way a bit. Okay, some of this head stuff I can get rid of. Alright. So obviously I broke a lot of the animation there, but I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it just to get this extra level of control so I can kind of do what I got in my mind for this last part where he is kind of not dead and he's still kind of thrashing about. So I'm just going to quickly rough this in here, and it also allows me to do some stuff on this area. What I'm kind of tempted to do as well is to actually lock this head to the floor at this point, change the head over to IK as well, because what that will allow me to do is move this controller independently and the head will basically lock on the floor, which is kind of what I want. At this point his head's not going anywhere, it's kind of been stabbed. It will have a slight bit of ambient movement, but it makes sense that I can kind of do this and have him thrashing about and twitching about and stuff. Alright, so let's try that as well. Alright, same thing as before, I need to actually find the controller. It's always a bit hard once you've been animating. I think it's probably going to be that one. No, that's the spine. Oh, I hope it has it. Please tell me it has it. I don't think it has it. Oh, we got global. Hang on a sec. Okay, we got global control. That'll probably do the job, I think. Let me try it at the end. And turn global on. It should probably do the same kind of thing. It won't, obviously it doesn't affect the neck. I guess it does, kind of. Stick global on, reposition. Now if I move this, no. No. Alright, I might have to go away and look at the documentation on it just to see how you switch that head over. It must have it because everything else has got it, and this is advanced skeleton I believe, so it's probably just hidden away somewhere, but cool, never mind. Let's take one final look so I can get a game plan for the next video. Just slowly scrub through for you. You got the raw, that's looking pretty good. The bite, spear throw that hits there, a little bit of a run up, tears the spear out, jumps, hits him in the head, lands. Then what I'm probably going to do is kind of reposition her here to go two-handed and basically just like yank it, yank it towards her, which will kind of break its neck almost, and have all this twitching about, the tail going as he dies, and then she'll probably pull the spear out and hit a cool pose at the end. And I think that'll be the blocking pretty much done. Cool. Alright, so I'm going now, but thanks for tuning in.